It's Dallin from a band called I Don't Know How But They Found Me, and you're listening to the Rock Sound Podcast. Neat.
Hello and welcome to the Rock Sound Podcast. I'm Will Cross, junior editor at the magazine, and joining me as always, Tamsin Wills. Hello.
Hello.
All right.
Yeah, I'm a little bit tired.
So you got your voice?
I've got my voice. Thank God. I went to a gig last night and I had the best time. Really fun time seeing a Scottish band called the La Fontaines.
Nice.
Who sort of merge rap and pop rock and bangers all in one. And had a very enjoyable time, but I stayed out a little too late and now I want to go to bed.
Did that on Saturday night with this man, Mr. Jack Rogers.
Hello, Will.
Hello. So it's so sad. How are you? You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. Yeah, I mean,
still recovering
well,
from a night out with Will.
I'm gonna say since then we didn't do anything silly. We just got annoyed at how busy Shoreditch gets on a Saturday together. Played with my Fallout Boy fidget spinner.
That's just daily life for you.
Yeah, but this was at night, so,
Yeah.
and, surrounded by people trying to have a good time.
Did you do it? Did you do it in the club?
Oh yeah.
I don't remember that. Oh, amazing.
Yeah. It almost kicked off over it. So.
Get in.
I'm sad I missed out.
It was good. So last week we had, of course, the legend Mr. Patrick Stump from Fall Out Boy on the show, talking all about brand new song, Hold Me Tight or Don't. And we also had Ryan Locke of the brilliant Seaway, who joined us to talk about their absolute banger album, one of our favourites of the year, Vacation. Absolutely amazing. Subscribe to us on iTunes, follow us on SoundCloud. This is going to be the last regular podcast for a couple of weeks, but more on that in a bit. So much exclusive content on our website. Check it all out. Loads of it from the podcast. Check everything out. But this week, to end before we have these special things happen, we have an absolute blockbuster. So we've got Aaron Pauley of Mice and Men returning to the show to talk all about newly announced album Defy, how it's been stepping up as a frontman. We had him on before when he was telling us before they went to the studio, so it's great to be able to talk to him now the album's done and how it was for him and the rest of the band. We spoke to Kevin Lyman, founder of Warped Tour, all about the shock decision last week to end the tour in 2018. We found out all the answers to what's going on with that, what motivated that decision. It was an absolute shock for everyone across the rock sound world. So we found out everything from Mr. Lyman himself. And we've got the brilliant Becca MacIntyre of the brilliant Marmozets as well, who've announced their new album, Knowing What You Know Now, on the shows, how it's been their time away, what's been going on with that, and also the promise of even more new music. But first, Tam's in the news.
Panic at the Disco will release a live album called All My Friends We're Glorious, Death of a Bachelor Tour live on December 15th, including a limited edition double vinyl, which I need. Knucklepuck have cancelled their upcoming UK tour. A statement can be read online. All our best wishes go to Joe. Paramore have dropped the video for Fake Happy, and I basically need Hayley's sequin suit.
This keeps coming up.
Frankie.
Big old talking point.
I mean, it's a look. It is a look. Frankie Hero has appeared in emo-themed Christmas comedy Romance in the Digital Age. Yep, you can buy it on Amazon. The link is on our website. Head to rocksound.tv, check out the trailer, and get ready. Sleeping with Sirens have released a Christmas song called Christmas on the Road. The main are in the studio with all-time lows at Ryan Dawson, which is really exciting.
Big up.
Real Friends have dropped a surprise song called Get By, and Andy Biersack's book They Don't Need to Understand Stories of Hope, Fear, Family, Life and Never Giving In will be released on January 9th.
So, interview one, Mr. Aaron Pauley, the brilliant Aaron Pauley. So, we had him on our launch specials, of course, all the way back when, 3 months ago, whatever it was, to chat everything about having to step up as the band's frontman. That band have changed so much. It's a real phoenix rising from the ashes type story. And that was when songs were being put down. It was all kind of still quite secret at the time. And now they've finished and announced the album Defy. We've heard it, it's brilliant. And I brought all of that to Aaron to talk everything Defy, how it's been stepping up, not just on stage, but in the studio as frontman of the band, chief lyricist now as well, and kind of telling the Mice and Men story, because it's been a difficult road up to this album, and this is very much the sound of a band absolutely fighting back right down to its title. Absolutely amazing stuff. This is a celebration of the Mice and Men legacy and a total new beginning. So here we go, Aaron Pauley returning to the Rock Sound podcast. Last time we spoke, you were deep into writing the album. How was the process overall? It feels like it's been very positive.
Man, you know what? I think the process of making the album, it was seriously so much fun, and it felt, I hate using the word easy because that makes it sound like we didn't have to work too hard at it. But the overall process was just very fluid. Because when I spoke to you, I said, that right after that we were going to go into the studio, we were going to make the new album. We were super pumped on how the live shows went, and we were going to take that energy. And that's exactly what we did. We took the energy that we would feel from the live shows, and we would take kind of those those certain live elements of our music, and we just kind of took that and put that into a record form. And it was just so much fun to be in the studio with my dudes and with Howard Benson and his staff. And yeah, man, it was just too much fun.
Amazing. So, that huge reaction you had over festival season, obviously all the love for Unbreakable and Back to Me as well. Is that all kind of, did that all kind of encourage that positive feeling and that kind of fire of going into the studio?
Oh, definitely. It definitely didn't hurt. You know what I mean? No, it was awesome to kind of see, because, I think when we spoke last time, I told you about how both of those songs were almost designed for us to play live. That was, the whole ethos behind those was, okay, well, we're going to be going into festival season. We're going to be playing in front of large crowds. What can we write that we feel like represents us and at the same time moves the crowds and really gets across live, because it's one thing to make a song in the studio, but it's another thing to play that live. And if that same energy can kind of come across that way. So for us to be able to do that and have such a positive reaction, it just kind of really validated what we were thinking about that, about how that's really what's going to propel the next cycle of Mice and Men. We're going back to that super energetic, heavier, very live sound.
Yeah, definitely, because I completely remember you saying that to me, and you're saying, you've written some of the heaviest stuff that this band's ever done, and that's totally true now. I've heard the record. How was it being able to dive headfirst into the real sort of heavier side of the band? Was it a lot of fun?
You know what? That was probably one of the most fun parts about making the record, was what can we do musically to where we can all kind of play it and look at each other and go, ugh, and you make that stink face like you smelled some piss, that just, ugh, that kind of, that was kind of, just to kind of have those moments. It was just a lot of fun, and I keep using the word fun, and I don't want to diminish that because it really was, man. It was seriously so much fun to make this record.
Yeah, definitely. Because in that sense of fun, was it a hugely different experience then to Cold World? Because I remember you saying to me, and I think you also said in the studio piece that Cold World was a very difficult period, obviously for the band, and it was difficult for every member.
It was. Yeah, I mean, I think it was the antithesis of that. Cold World was a very turbulent time for us as people, as a band. There was a lot of sadness, a lot of darkness around that record. Circumstances people were going through. And with this record, it was just hugely positive. There wasn't really any sort of negative cloud looming over anything, So it was very, I would almost say it was the opposite. It was, Cold World was a very demanding session, and it was very, important that we stayed focused, and it was very important that we, keep a very kind of myopic vision on everything just to kind of hold everything together. And with this, we were all very much on the same page. Everything was all about the positive energy, about, how we were interacting as a unit, as people. It was very antithetical to the making of Cold World, which I think, it shows in the music.
Yeah, for sure. No, it definitely does. I mean, it's a very different record in that sense. Now, I mean, diving into the record itself, I mean, there's so much going on. You've got kind of metal-heavy bangers like Instincts. You've got huge melodies and songs like Warzone. Did you kind of just want to make bangers, across the Mice and Men sound? Did you just want to, dive into every aspect that this band has built in terms of its sound and just do the best possible stuff with it?
You know what? I feel like I don't even need to answer these. I think you could definitely answer all of these. because you're nailing it. No. You know what? That's why, you know, when we got told, or when I was asked if I want to do this podcast with you again, I was like, dude, absolutely.
Oh, man.
You get music, and you get music as a music fan, and of Mice and Men, we are music fans. Like, the whole way we treat our band is from a perspective of being a fan of music. You know, so for us, it was exactly that. It was, when we play live, what do we love most about some of the elements of our stuff? Like, you know, I think of, you know, a song like You're Not Alone, very full on the floor, boom, bah, and that goes into Instincts, you know, boom, bah, boom, bah. And so it's just a lot of the whole kind of elements of the music in a way that kind of excited us. That's really what we focused on. But yeah, you nailed it. Absolutely.
That means so much. Thank you so much. I mean, I've been really looking forward to talking again, as I say. I mean, Vertigo as well. I mean, that's a real moment on the record. Like, take me inside that song in particular. Like, I love how it comes kind of nearly halfway through. And, like, yeah, it sounds like it's such a kind of massive anthem. Like, how did that come together?
So, Vertigo, it's funny. Vertigo, it's a song that instrumentally that I'd written. You know, it was kind of during, I want to say that I started the instrumental for that in January or February, before we'd released Unbreakable or Back to Me. And that was a song that we'd had demoed purely instrumentally. And I'd written the vocals for it and demoed those in, I think, February or March. So that was one of the songs that we'd had complete even before we went into the studio to do Unbreakable and Back to Me. And that was, for me, that was one of my favorites. You know, that song was hugely influenced by, and you might get a kick out of this, you know, the singer Seal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, you know, it's very Seal. It's very major minor, kind of, you know, Kiss from a Rose type, you know, chord structure to it. You know, and that song I think has like, it's kind of a very kind of a perfect circle-y kind of element to it too. And that song was just a very emotional song. And, you know, lyrically, I was working on it and Tino had come over and we were talking about, I can't remember what we were talking about, but then all of a sudden Tino said the word vertigo. And I thought, like, that makes perfect sense. Like, if you've ever suffered from vertigo, have you ever suffered from vertigo?
Where
it's just like your equilibrium is all off.
Very really mildly, yeah.
Yeah, and so you know what? So for when he said that, this whole kind of topics thing just kind of hit me. Like, I don't really know how I'd word it other than it all just, you know, I don't ever feel like I'm going to pass straying on a tangent here. Sorry, I just had a double espresso, so I'm going like a million right now.
You go for it.
But, you know, you know, I have this theory where, like, I don't really feel like anything I've ever written is stuff I've written. It almost feels like it comes from somewhere. You know, I feel like sometimes when I write a song or when I write lyrics, like, it's just like all of a sudden it was somewhere in the universe and my brain grabbed it and just pulled it. And all of a sudden this whole kind of theme hit me when Tino had said the word vertigo, where it was kind of like, you know, if you ever suffer from vertigo, one of the things they tell you is to try and not fight back against it. That you almost kind of have to succumb to it and understand that that's why you're dizzy. And, you know, for me, that song very much is about the past and how it's really easy to try and hold on to the past and hold on to people and hold on to things and hold on to experiences and memories and try and keep them in the present and try to keep reliving them. But when you do that, that will make you perpetually dizzy. And, you know, you can end up in a spot where you're not really experiencing true happiness. You're not experiencing life the way that you're supposed to because you're continuously trying to fight against this thing that you can't really fight back against.
Yeah, 100%. Because as well, going on that kind of lyrical tangent then, I mean, like, you've obviously, you know, stepping up doing all the lyrics now. Like, how was that? Was that difficult to do? Did you feel like you had a lot to address, or did it just come naturally? Like, how was it kind of on that side of things for yourself?
You know, I think some of the songs lyrically came much easier than others. And then, you know, some of them, you know, one of the biggest questions, or one of the questions I'm asked most frequently now doing, you know, press for this upcoming record is, you know, how was the album making process different than the last one? And, you know, it was pretty much not different with the way that we've created the instrumentals and music, because the four of us, you know, for the last 2 records, now 3, like, that had been the way that it had been done. And lyrically, you know, the only difference was before Austin and I would write lyrics together and work on vocals together. And, while I didn't have him to bounce ideas off of, I had my bandmates. I had Tino, I had Phil, I had Alan. And so, and I had Howard Benson, and I had other people. And you know what? It was a really, really cool experience because, my bandmates trusted me a lot. There wasn't too much interjection or involvement other than my dude saying, "Hey, I'm here if you need me for anything." So some of the songs were easier to write than others. Even before, you can take a song like "Pain," for example. "Pain" was Tino and Austin that wrote the lyrics for that. And you have a song like "Relentless," and that was me and Tino that wrote the lyrics for that. So, Tino was very, very instrumental in being that. I like to think of writing like playing tennis. And you can either hit it up against a wall or you can hit it up against somebody else, and Tino was very, very instrumental in helping out with the lyrics.
Amazing, yeah, because in that sense as well, the album closes with "If We Were Ghosts," which is a hugely moving moment, ends on a very moving note. Take me inside that song in that sense. Was that song always standing out as a special song and the song that was going to end the album, or how did that kind of come together?
That song came about because, as we were nearing the completion of the record, initially we were only going to do 10 songs, and that was including Unbreakable and Back to Me. So it was going to be 8 new ones. And Howard Benson, he basically told us, he said, you guys have a lot of time. I'd really like you guys to, if you want to, I'd really like you guys to try and write a ballad or try and do a cover. And we're like, all right, well, shit, like we got enough time. Let's do both. We're a very hardworking band. So that song kind of came about. Me and Tino basically restructured the instrumental for that. And, lyrically, that song to me is probably the closest thing to a tribute to Chester that I could ever hope to get across. So that song for me is very, very, very special and very important. And also, it was never really a thought of, oh, this is going to end the record or this is going to go here. Like, it was just literally all about the song and all about that moment. Yeah.
Wow.
I could just keep rambling forever.
Well, to move on to the Pink Floyd cover as well. So Howard Benson obviously said, like you've just told me, that you do that song and a cover. Like, how did that come about? Was that what kind of made you go for Pink Floyd? It comes as a real curveball. It's very cool.
Yeah. So this is literally how that came about. This was, we were all sitting outside. It was nice and sunny out, and Howard came out, and we were all feeling really good about the album. We're like, man, we're breezing through this. It was like 3 weeks into a 5-week session or 5.5-week session, and we were nearly done with pretty much all the stuff that we were needed to do, like what we call the heavy lifting. And so he comes outside, and he goes, I want you guys to do 2 more songs. And we're all kind of like, oh, shit, okay, here we go. And he goes, all right, well, I want you guys to try and do a ballad and a cover. What do you guys think you'd want to cover? And it was really funny because earlier that day we were driving up from Orange County to Woodland Hills where the studio was, which is about like an hour and a half drive, depending on traffic. And I just remember in the car, we were in Alan's car, and we had listened to Money. And almost kind of tongue-in-cheek, I said, oh, well, what if we do Pink Floyd's Money? And literally all of my bandmates looked at me like, you're an idiot. Like, you can't touch that. That's like, that's in the pantheon of untouchable things to cover or anything. And it was really funny because I said it not as a joke, but kind of as a joke, like very tongue in cheek. And everyone was like, really, dude? Like, what? And then Howard just looked at me, and me and him locked eyes, and he goes, I fucking love it. And it was like, all right, well, and so then Alan literally went to town. He sat down at his computer, and Alan is the one that arranged that song, like in the new arrangement. And he's like, what if we did it like this? And it's just very, like just very, very, very heavy, very rock, just very, like I said, we wanted this album to be played live. And I just thought of being at Download main stage, playing that. And it was like, man, it just felt so good. So, well, people will either like it or we will get flamed for it forever. But regardless, it's fun. It's a song that we definitely intend on playing live. come at me, you know?
So cool. I guess just to finish up then, like with the album title Defy and everything, I mean, something that stuck with me that you said when we chatted before is that, you said it's got, you should remember to enjoy all of this, because it's finite, and, to enjoy the making the songs, to the press, to the live shows, to everything. And when I found out the album was called Defy, it kind of reminded me of that, in the sense, is this album as a whole about that and about remembering to enjoy everything and to fight back against, any problems, and that you can overcome all these obstacles and that sort of thing? Like what's the album's general theme in that sense?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, I think you kind of nailed it, and I think it goes, like you've been doing. I should call you the Hammer because you just keep nailing these things. But Will the Hammer with the new Rock Sound podcast. No, but you know what? I think the album, I think when we were talking about that, and talking about how you can either define yourself through change or you can let change define you, and I think for us, it was all about, being defiant to that, for us to say, like, we're not going to let the past define us, and we're not going to let the change define us, and we're not going to let the odds define us, like we are going to defy against that. So whereas the title track of the song doesn't necessarily have to do with that, but, that song is kind of more about, like the opioid crisis and things like that. Like that was kind of the more inspiration behind that. But as an album title, it really encompasses that whole defiant spirit. Like we are who we are. We're not going to let people define us. We're not going to let our past define us. And so so I think you kind of nailed it. It's all about and each song in its own way, including the cover, has to do with ways that you can deal with change. And I didn't really realize that until looking at it kind of top down when it was done. I realized, every song is kind of its own answer to dealing with change, and I think, to basically put it into one phrase, you can either let change define you or you can define yourself through the change.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. As I say, Defy is an absolute banger. Been playing it to death for the past couple of weeks. So good. Tamsin, like going back on those launch specials, how do you feel now with Aaron returning to the podcast?
I mean, I think you've made a new friend, Will.
Yes, I have.
It's like,
Yeah.
I was just like,
yeah.
I was listening to the interview, and I was like, it really made me smile, actually. It was really nice to hear him say those things. But I was just like, wow, okay. Someone likes Will. Jeez.
Oh, it's likewise. I love him too.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, I feel like this is just a whole new shining chapter for Of Mice and Men, and quite clearly this album has, like, they've developed a lot, and they've had to change their writing style slightly. It's not really been that different, but they just seem so much happier. And so much more positive about where they're going and what's happening with the band. And I just love how, like, sassy he was, and he was just like, if you don't like it, come at me. Like, we've made this album and we've smashed it. So, I mean, shout out Of Mice and Men. They've kind of gone through hell and back, and I think they're really coming out the other side with these new songs that they've been putting out. Every single one's been great. And yeah, things can only get better from here, I think.
Definitely, and yeah, well, exactly what you've just said. You can hear it in the songs on the album. It's such a powerful album, Jack, you've heard it. What you're saying?
Yeah, with like the album, it's the biggest statement of the album is the heaviness of it, like, and it's like this old school guttural, like, heaviness, like proper, like it's a pure headbang. And the thing about it is, he kept saying, like, how fun it is, going back to that, like, because heavy music should be fun, like, even though it is angry and he's got all these subjects, like, he's covering of, like, which aren't fun, but, like, you can hear him, like, actually smiling, like, when he's talking about it, and, like, that he's been able to, like, let out all these emotions in this way, which is actually, like, productive rather than, like, stifled. And I think the comparison keeps going back to, like, because it will for, like, Cold World, like, of what a difficult time that was for them to be at this stage now, and, like, in a zone where they know what they're capable of, they know what they want from the band, they know where they're heading. It's exciting, like, to bring the album out at the start of 2018, at the start of the year, and then have a whole year to, like, build on it, and like have a set of tracks which they can pull out whenever they wish, and, like, create this new chapter. Like, rather than it just be, well, here's a new album, like, we might play a bit, but we might hark back. Like, this is a proper, like, it's not even a new chapter, like, it's a new book. It's a new book in the series. It's like the 7th Harry Potter.
I can't follow that.
Yeah. It's like the massive one. It's the revelation. It's the one with the most action and the most suspense, and like, yeah. And this album, I am comparing this album to Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, I guess.
Mate, what a compliment, man. Well, yeah, as I say, can't really follow that. I mean, yeah, all I can do is back it up. Like, yeah, Defy it's an incredible album, and to say, just keep going back, and I think, like we've all said, it's just this sound of, you know, defiance and fighting back and not allowing your band to be beaten by circumstances out of your control, and it's just so inspiring to hear that. So yeah, huge shout to Aaron for coming back on the show. One of the best guests we've had, hands down. And
you're just saying that because he said lots of really nice things to you.
No, I'm not. I'm not. No. I genuinely love Defy. It's amazing, and I think it's just so nice to hear, like I say, to hear a band genuinely not be beaten by things. You know, because some bands will crumble, and that's great to hear. So yeah, huge shout out to Aaron and the rest of the Mice and Men. Massive.
Oh yeah, listener questions. So let's boogie. Caitlin Nuggets, I think, asked, what album are you most excited for in 2018? And for me, it's one which I'm quite curious about, and I don't know which way it's going to go, but it does make me excited. And I think it's the Wonder Years, because I love that band. Like, I travelled halfway across the world to see that band like a few years ago, and they've had a huge effect on me. After No Close to Heaven, which I still loved, like, it took a bit of getting used to. And the way that the band have been portraying themselves going forwards, it's interesting. And I can't really predict which way it's going to go, like whether they are a pop punk band anymore or not, or whether they're going to go even sadder, even more like sway and shoegazy. Like, I like the fear that it strikes into me. Like, that like ignites the fire in my belly. So yeah, whatever the Wonder Years are throwing up, that's for me.
I am going with Against the Current because it's guaranteed bops for days. And you know, there's been hints at who might be appearing on that album, hasn't there? And if a certain Mr. Alex Gaskarth is featuring on the Against the Current album, I'm going to lose my bloody mind. Yeah, I like. You know, Chrissy's, you know, told us before, you know, things go quite dark. I think they've matured a lot as a band and with their songwriting, and I'm really interested to see where they go with this next record, because I mean the first one was a banger, but it was very pop, and I feel like this one's gonna like touch on a lot of different areas that they're interested in. So hurry up Against the Current and release some stuff, please. Thanks.
Yeah, about that. Yeah, great shouts. Well, I had two picks. I would have snapped with Jack on the Wonder Years. So now he said the Wonder Years. I'll say The Fever, Jason Butler's project. He's been kind of trickling out songs over the past few months since the summer, and it's all been quite mysterious. There've been a few shows, there's stuff on YouTube, of course the infamous Randy's Donuts show. I mean, I love Let Live. They're one of my favourite bands of all time. So whatever Jason's going to do next, I want to know about it. And I love the song so far. And I think the songs live that there's footage out there of, they all sound so different. It sounds like he's trying so many new things. And that's really exciting creatively. So, yeah, The Fever, yeah, going to be good. It's going to be a big 2018, I think.
Oh, huge year.
Oh, yeah.
Why can't it be now? And one... Rossington Smith asked, what would your zombie apocalypse album be, and what would you want to mow down walkers to? Well, first of all, I just want to point out that if there was a zombie apocalypse, I don't think I'd be like...
I wouldn't be sifting through, like, you know, the music on my phone.
Your bangers, yeah.
Trying, like, hold up, guys, I've got to find the right soundtrack for this. Okay, got it, let's go.
Oh, where's...
Stars.
No Wi-Fi. I'm out of data.
Can't download it.
Yeah. But mine would be a deathcore classic from 2006, which is A Blood Runs Black Allegiance, which is a brilliant gym album. So I imagine like smashing brains in would be sick for it as well.
Wow, heavy vibes.
It's kind of like a weird place to get the answer to this question. You kind of have to put your mind in a bit of a weird place. Like if I was
a murderer,
if I was swiping dead people, like with God knows what, and like just attacking things that are trying to kill me, like what would I want to listen to?
I would be curious. I would be curious to know what if like it did happen. If Spotify would have time to do kind of mood playlists.
Yeah,
here's a mood playlist for when you want to destroy the world.
I reckon they do it. Yeah.
My choice is Architects with Lost Forever, Lost Together.
Oh yeah.
Just because like you can like time it with the bless, like just knock off a head every time Sam Carter like does a little scream. It'd be great.
Oh, that'd be so good. 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge by My Chemical Romance. I think it'd just bop around while,
Bop around?
Yeah, well, mowing down.
Like Star-Lord at Star of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yes.
Like little...
Doing a little jig.
Yeah, doing a little jig.
You've got to warm up before you murder zombies.
That's it.
Oh, yeah, it's like, you see Zombieland. It's like, rule 2, limber up.
Oh, mate, that's it.
Taro.
So, next week, something very, very special is happening. This is going to be, as I say, the last regular podcast for a couple of weeks before something huge takes over for a little bit. So keep an eye on all our socials throughout the week and then be on our Twitter page sharp at 5 p.m. UK time next Friday, December the 1st. No spoilers, but be very, very excited. In the meantime, Spotify playlists, follow us on Spotify. Our updated Rock Sound chart is there waiting for you to listen to. Perfect for commutes, perfect for wanting to check out the Rock Sound world, all the latest bangers. What's number 1, Jack?
It is Hold Me Tight or Don't by Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, it is. Big time, big shout. And our Scuzz TV show as well. Most recent episode on Daily on Scuzz. Check that out, all the most recent bangers in the magazine. Brilliant stuff. So interview 2. Mr. Kevin Lyman was kind enough to join us to talk all about the shocking decision to end the Warped Tour, a world and establishment, a community, that we've all grown up on. All these bands have made their name from Fall Out Boy to My Chemical Romance to Eminem to, Katy Perry. Crazy, crazy stuff.
Shout out Katy Perry.
Oh, big time. This was a really brilliant chat because he was totally honest, really, really cool in answering everything. And he, while we didn't focus on the negative too much, he was very happy to answer, about why he made this what must be a very difficult decision. So anyway, I'll shut up. Here's Kevin Lyman to tell you all about what's going on with Warped Tour. It must have been such a difficult decision to announce what you did last week. I guess just to kick off then, where did that decision come from?
It had been stirring in my mind for the past couple of years, I set out this tour, in 1995 to promote action sports and music. Now, through the years, it kind of transformed into a cultural thing. But, I think I'd done everything I could possibly do in the format that it is. Things have changed a lot. I always find it interesting that, no offense to yourself, but, every time someone wants to talk, they dwell on the negative, you sit there finding yourself, you find yourself defending yourself against things that sometimes you weren't, and I don't know, it just felt like, I enjoy the philanthropic sides of Warped. That's a big part of what we do. I enjoy the education parts. I enjoy teaching bands how to tour and the community. But the distractions have become so much sometimes and I'm just tired, to be honest, physically tired. I run a tour the same way I do every year. I'm out there, because I believe that me being the presence on the tour has been the stabilizing thing when you have so many bands on the road, that you end up getting, you're just fatigued. You're tired. I'm 57 years old, working 16 hours a day for 2 months straight. And I think we can continue what we've done with Warped, in the future, but it just needs to manifest itself in different ways.
Definitely. So this is very much not the end then, in that sense, in that you want to look at doing other things and kind of adapt to 2017, 2018, adapt to the modern way the music industry is now. You kind of just want to try different things with the Warped name.
Yeah, well, potentially. It's been so fresh and so new. We still have a 37-city tour to put out this year.
Yep.
We still have, plans for the 25th anniversary, which a lot of things will take place during that year. We just finished a cruise. We, hopefully, potentially, we'll get another chance to do another one. So there's a lot of work to do over the next 18 months that we haven't really looked beyond that. And it could manifest, and, who knows which way it's going to go. I have ideas of taking a tour on the road with all the nonprofits that we worked with in the past. And maybe music's a little bit of a backseat to that, but we can, continue the philanthropic aspects that we're doing. But that's just discussions, sitting around a table, having a glass of wine with some friends now. But really, we do have to focus on putting out the best possible tour for next summer.
Amazing. That's very exciting. I mean, you say, I don't want to dwell on the negative side of things too much, and I'm going to move on to, the much more positive side of things. But just very quickly, I mean, you said to Billboard that, for the last few years, maybe it hasn't been quite as fun. And this year especially, you felt that there was still a really good attendance in the sense of bands were heavily devoted. The fan bases were all there in force, but maybe there wasn't so much that kind of casual festival goer and that sort of thing. Has that been quite a bit disappointing to see, that shift?
It is in general. I think it's a societal shift, and the more when you think it's yourself at first, but I'm out there on the road, and you don't know until you're out there the first couple of shows, and you're going, where did all the 14 to 17 years olds go? Where did they go? And Warped was always their first experience into the festival culture, and I think the festival culture is so important, and most people get turned on to it. Or at least in the United States, so many people got turned on to it by their experience at Warped Tour. And they just did not come out this year. And some people said, well, the lineup was a bit older in this, but when you really dig into it, we had Neck Deep, and we had Beartooth, and we had I Prevail. So we had all the young bands that should be the up and coming bands within music, and that have always kind of perpetuated through the Warped, culture and system that we do things. And the younger kids just did not come out. And then, as the summer went on and I talked to more people and they're saying, well, yeah, their kids just want to stay in their rooms and watch Netflix. And then, some more traditional ways out right after the tour, a big report came out in the Atlantic magazine over here that talked about 14 to 17 years olds. Are they becoming a lost generation to technology? And I was like, wow. So I look at it and go, if these people turn into 18 to 21-year-olds and they're not getting out and going and having that, festival experience, that's when these shows become, embedded in your DNA. And, I think we have a greater thing to look at because Warped was always the canary in the coal mine, and we were, but we had the diehard fans were out there. Our average 19 to 30-year-olds were out. They're, in the sun for 9 hours singing along. And I think it really benefited bands like Neck Deep because they kind of made a little bit older fan who actually went out and bought their albums when they came out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I totally know what you mean. I mean, in that sense, I guess, do you think that it's a real shame that these kids aren't, these 14 to 17-year-olds, that kind of demographic, aren't being so active within their scenes? Because obviously I know you started Warped on very much the vision to build a community and a world, which is very much what it became. And I mean, do you think that's a real shame that younger side of the generation, do you think that's going to affect how music continues to go and how, and bands growing up with it from within that generation? Do you think it's going to have a real effect on that?
Well, I think so. If the bands can't, I think we talk about streaming being, such a big force in music, and bands are streamed, but are they making the connection to want to encourage people to come out and see them live? Early on in technology, people told me that, before, way back when, that people would live in these virtual worlds and perform, and people would just watch them at home. And I said, you'll never replace the live music experience. And, you know, I always thought that, you know, you grow up and you want to go out and experience live music. But for some reason, there seems to be a disconnect right now with that younger demo. And I think, you know, that the music's playing in the background while they're doing their homework and they're on Snapchat and that, but it's not motivating them to want to go see the bands live in some settings. So I think, you know, it's a challenge we all face in the music business is how do we motivate people to take that streaming and get the emotional attachment to the band to want to go see them live. I think we're all going to be faced with that challenge.
Yeah, definitely. Because as well, I mean, something else you said in the Billboard interview I thought was really interesting is that there is that sense as well on the band side of things that maybe, obviously not all bands or anything like that, but just that sometimes there's maybe that kind of that missing unity that there used to be, and that, you know, bands they build a real fan base and a real legacy within a world like the Warped world, and then they go, oh, actually we just want to change genre completely, and it makes for a slightly odd shift. Has that been something that's kind of increased in recent years?
I've seen it absolutely in the last 4 or 5 years, and I think it might be that you used to have to, before you judged each other, you'd have to meet each other on the road, or maybe you toured with each other. But now I think people are passing judgments on other bands or jumping to conclusions on other bands by just what maybe they see on social media or something, and instead of, you know, we used to kind of get together and Warped Tour. It wasn't like, you know, maybe, and I'm just trying to say early on, you know, through the years, it wasn't like no one showed up at Warped Tour with a preconceived notion of who Black Eyed Peas were. You know, you would put them all in this, you would, or even later on, you know, I'm just trying to think, you know, when you have hip hop and you'd have punk bands and rock bands, they probably traveled in different circles, but they really didn't know each other. And then all of a sudden you throw them in that parking lot and they find how much they have in common. And I think artists find that because I always said that, you know, you're all musicians, you're all artists. You know, you may play something different, you may think, but you should, you know, support each other as much as possible. And I've just seen that the inner bickering amongst bands, to me, is draining, and I don't think is healthy. And the bickering amongst bands within a scene is not healthy for the long term.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, as well, on the kind of the positive slant of that as well. I mean, it's something that you're very proud of about Warped is that, you know, you touched on, so you mentioned the Black Eyed Peas, and, you know, that you know, Warped has been integral in breaking so many bands and, you know, and artists, and those range from, you know, My Chem to, you know, obviously Fall Out Boy to Katy Perry to Eminem to Ask Alexandria, you know, all these different genres, but they all kind of, like you say, they all were put in that parking lot and they all worked so well together. Is that something that you're super proud of that you've done with Warped and its legacy?
Absolutely. You know, absolutely. And I guess you could relate it, you know, if you say Katy Perry, on that same set of stages that year, there was a band from the UK, Bring Me the Horizon. And I would watch the fans from Bring Me the Horizon kind of, when Katy, I'd put them sometimes side by side more as a social experiment, an amusement for myself, you know, to watch the reaction from the Bring Me the Horizon fans to Katy Perry. And yes, some would drift off, but how many of them turned around and started watching and drifted over? And likewise, maybe the young girls who were watching Katy Perry turned and saw Bring Me the Horizon and drifted over and watched them. So that's an interchanging of fans, as well as sometimes what I was really saying is there's a lot of bands who say, oh, I don't want to be on Warped with a band like Attila or maybe this. And I say, of course you should be on a tour with a band like Attila, because wouldn't you love for their fans to turn around and walk over and watch you?
Yeah.
But if you only play for your same fan base all the time, and it's throughout history, if you don't spread your wings and grow your fan base, and Warped was that way to play for different fan bases that kind of all found unity in a parking lot, that it's very hard to expand your fan base if you just play with the same type of bands.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, in terms of the plans you've got, obviously, you know, you've got the final full tour next year, and obviously we touched on the 25th anniversary and everything like that, and all the special plans for that. Obviously, I can imagine those are only in the planning stages at the moment, but is that something that you still really, really want to push and celebrate, especially with these things coming up? Is that diversity and that kind of, like we were chatting about earlier as well, about people, you know, young kids coming out to their first festival and seeing this mix of bands and mix of music? Is that something that you could want to continue to push and celebrate and make sure it doesn't get lost?
I hope to. You know, I hope it's, as long as I still have a voice, you know, in there. And I think I do have a voice, you know, I just need that to probably energize myself a bit. You know, it gets to be kind of a routine. And I started the Warped Tour so there wouldn't be routine. You know, I used to be a production manager who set up the same shows every day, and they ran at the same time, and the bands played. And Warped Tour was about not that routine. And I think not that routine also is in my personal life. I like variance. And I found recently that you do the Warped Tour, and now that bands are booking earlier and earlier, I think you probably know that these tours go on sale, you know, 8 months ahead of time. You know, I found myself, it was the routine of being on tour. Literally the last week of tour, people are talking about the next year's tour. And it's become kind of a routine. And I think it's become a routine, not only for myself, but in the sense that I think people took it for granted that, oh, Warped will be here forever. Warped will be there forever. But, you know, maybe it'll shake a lot of people up to start doing better, like working towards unifying the scene again and work towards cooperation. Because I think everyone just kind of, I don't know, in some ways depended on us to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I could feel that. I mean, has it felt like that in a sense? Has it felt like maybe Warped has been a bit taken for granted in the past few years, you know, and obviously not by everyone or anything like that, but just by certain demographics? Has it felt that way?
A little bit. Oh, it'll be always here, you know. Oh, I don't go to Warped Tour this year. I'll go next year because it's going to be here. Or, you know, even some of the artists. Oh, you know, Warped's convenient for them in a certain time frame. But it's not part of, like, it's there if we need it.
Yeah, which is a real shame. I mean, but on a positive note to that, though, I mean, obviously we chatted about that is the, you know, it was an amazing story what you were telling me about Katy Perry fans and Bring Me fans, you know, like across the, you know, the whole legacy of Warped. What have been some of your kind of favourite memories and best moments, like, you know, moments like that? What have been some real things that stick out?
Well, really what the moments have been coming back is the emails I've been getting from artists and people who've worked on the tour. And they've been emailing the last week. And, you know, it almost seemed like I was like witnessing my own funeral in some way or my memorial. You know, it was weird. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. You know, I still have lots to do and want to do a lot of things in life. But the emails you were getting were almost like your eulogy in some ways. And, you know, and bands would spark on a moment or a show or a storm. And someone said, you know, I got one from an artist. And it was probably one of my darkest days on Warped Tour. And there was an artist named Megan Wright who emailed me the other day and said, I know that this day was really rough on you. It was the day that I let Front Porch Step come back, which we've all read about, and play that one show. But she also said there was a huge storm that came that day and hit the show. And she never felt more part of something when everyone started pulling together to keep everyone safe at the show. So there's this contrast that day where she's telling me, and it was probably because I made this decision, right or wrong. You live and die by your decisions. And I guess this one, you know, maybe reconsidering it and stuff, you know, I will admit when maybe I made the wrong decision, but I was going off of some professional's advice, which I'm not a trained therapist or anything, to also hear that someone else was having an experience that same day where she never felt a greater sense of community.
Wow.
So that's what Warped Tour has always been. That's what Warped to me always is. Warped, no two people, you know, unless you go with a friend and you're hooked together and you do everything together at the Warped Tour, no two people have the same experience at Warped Tour. And that's what I kind of created. You're going to see a different set of your bands. You're going to have a different experience. You're going to meet different people. You might get involved in a different nonprofit. You might, you know, it's what it is. It's Warped Tour has always been kind of a contrast. And I've always said, everyone, and I'd probably say that was probably one of my worst, but when she sent me that, it was like, wow, that's what Warped Tour is. I was probably having my darkest days, and that's the day she remembers that she had a great sense of community.
Yeah, as I say, super honest chat, really interesting, very enlightening, because obviously we were all very shocked by the news. Jack?
I think the biggest thing, because when this news dropped, people were like, oh, bloody hell, it's end of Warped Tour, like, what are we going to do now? And like it was, like, mourning it. But, like, as Kevin explained really clearly, it's not really the end. Like, he's got so many other things in the works, like, as it sounds like. He's reeling off, like, idea after idea on what he's, like, wants to do or how he wants to change. And remember, everyone, he did say last cross-country run. Like, there's still probably going to be Warped Tour. But I think it just shows what a clever man he is, that, like, even when he knows he's onto an absolute winner, he's still not fully satisfied with it. I think that's what most of this harks to. But also you can hear it in his voice that, like, you can tell he realised that people were depending on Warped. Like, people's summers were, like, centred all around him and this idea he had, which I think I can imagine, like, for him is quite uncomfortable and there's a lot of pressure. So I think it's quite nice that he's able to, like, speak openly about, like, how he feels about these things, and also, like, no, I just want to be a bit of a human again. And, like, the way he's, like, talks about, like, the more controversial areas that he's had in the last few years with the honesty and, like, openness, like, I think it was a really interesting chat, like, to hear it from the man himself. And yeah, almost 25 years he's been doing that. Mad.
Yeah, amazing. I think people really have taken it for granted a bit, I think, because when you think about, like those bands we talked about, or those artists we talked about, Warp's been integral in so many different genres and the huge names within them, which is a huge, amazing thing. Tamsin?
Yeah, I mean, everything that you guys have said already, and I mean, first up, podcast road trip to Warped Tour 2018.
Oh yes,
because I've never been. I've always wanted. I think for a lot of people our age, a lot of people who who are both fans of music and, like us, have grown up to work in music as well, Warped Tour has always been on the bucket list, and so we're flying out next year.
Vegas, baby.
Going straight up. Number 2, very excited about the suggestion that he might come back to the UK with it.
Yep.
Because I have missed the Warped Tour. Like, what the times that he did bring it over here, whether it was just for the one day or for the 4 weekends, like, it was so much fun. And just, like, there was just a casual day to remember a secret set that would happen.
That was amazing.
I got to see Yellow Cards, like, twice within, like, 48 hours. And that's just the dream, really. So if you wouldn't mind bringing it back over for, like, a day, that would also be really great. But, like, the main point I kind of took from it, and what I want people to really pay attention to, is he made some really, really honest points on the kind of the state of the festival scene, of the music scene at the moment, and people, like, kids just not caring enough. People have taken Warp for granted, and they just presume that, like, as he said, I won't go this year because it'll be on next year and I might go then. But it's a very brave decision to cancel it, or whatever, however you want to word it.
Shut down.
And just be like, no, I'm not doing this. If you guys can't be bothered to come out and support this scene, then I'm going to create that scene for you. And I think a lot of us all need to kind of pay attention to it. Don't, as great as Netflix is, don't sit at home binging Stranger Things on repeat, like, for the rest of your summer.
Yeah, it's only a day, isn't it? It's only a day to go out
It's
to
one day,
Warped Tour.
and, like, I wouldn't be the person that I am now if I hadn't met most of the people, like, all the people I've met at gigs, like, all the friends that I've made at gigs, like, like you said, the sense of community at Warped Tour is a huge thing, and it makes it what it is, and it's an amazing thing to be part of. And it saddens me to feel like kids are missing out on that, on being a part of that, simply because they just can't be bothered, or because there's something better on telly. Like, and I know, like, you know, there's other cases like trying to afford tickets and stuff like that, but, you know, start saving the money jar now for those 2018 tickets, because like it being the final cross country tour, it's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's you know, I think what Kevin said as well, it's going to be a prophecy. Like, you know, the thing is, if we don't support these things, we are going to lose them.
Yeah.
And I think we can't lose these things, you know. And I think, you know, I hope that we see what Kevin said and what you said you hope for. You know, I think we are going to see a lot more of Kevin and his work, and that's amazing.
I mean, like, shout out the guy, like, just being like, I need a break, guys. I'm 57.
Yeah.
Like, he's been working solid for like 20 odd years. Like, I think it's okay to let him, like, you know, just have a little time off.
Have a sit down.
Have a cup of tea, Kevin, and then come back when you've rested.
Yeah, big time. Massive shout out to Kevin, absolute legend. And yeah, we fly us over for 2018. We want to do that.
Yeah,
we will.
if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Big up Warped Tour, absolutely incredible stuff. So, interview 3, special third interview this week. Becca MacIntyre of the brilliant Marmozets. So, Marmozets has been away for a little while. So, I mean, I saw him in 2015 on the main stage at Reading. What felt like this real crowning moment, you know, after the Weird and Wonderful Marmozets loved across the board. And then, unfortunately, you know, a few things happened and they had to take some time away. And, you know, they were gone for a little bit, but then they put this brilliant album, again, we've heard it, Knowing What You Know Now, together, and it's just the sound of a band with all that bottled energy going straight into the hi-fi system, and just, man, this album's so vibrant and brilliant. So I spoke to Becca all about that, about some of the frustrations of being away, and just everything in general, really. So, yeah, here's Becca from Marmozets. So, Knowing What You Know Now, I've been playing it to death for the last couple of weeks. It's massively anticipated, loving it. Like, does it feel great to be getting music back out there to people? Because it feels like everyone's been on the edge of the seats waiting for the album.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm stuck at this point where it kind of feels like we've kind of like wrote the music, but it doesn't really exist, and it's not been like, it doesn't exist because it's like not out and about yet. So we're in like a really, really weird situation where it's like, we know we've done this album, but not many people have heard it. Well, obviously, like, a bunch of press have heard it and stuff like that before it all gets out there to the whole world. But, yeah, it's just weird. We're just like, because we've had it recorded since last year, so it's just a matter of getting it out. Obviously, we've got a date, which is like the 26th of January, I believe, or the 27th, so... yeah, we just want it to be out so everyone can just chill with it.
yeah, I can totally imagine.
Annoying.
No, I can totally imagine. Because I mean, has that been quite frustrating then? Because obviously, you know, you dealt with your knee injuries and that sort of thing. I mean, was that, and then leading up to the process, and then having to wait until the album's actually out there, even though it was recorded last year, has that all been quite frustrating?
Yeah, it has, but I think timing is a key within this industry, and especially for us. So I think, you know, the last 2 years we've just really needed to like sort out a load of stuff, so, as well as, you know, doing our job, which is writing music that we love. So yeah, it's just been a bit annoying. Obviously, we wish it could have been out earlier, but there's not much that we could do about it because, you know, there was personal things going on. So. But it's cool because we're on a good track now as well with it all, because we've already started writing for the next one. So we all seem to be in a really good place. So and it's going to be super exciting because, you know, Christmas time is like so exciting for everyone. And then we're just going to have this album that drops after, you know, after everyone has their like their blues of, you know, having such an amazing Christmas holiday or festival, whatever people want to call it. So I think it'll be like a nice little treat to release the album then just after this festival season. So yeah, I think it's good timing.
Yeah, definitely. Because I mean, in terms of putting this album down, then, like, was there a lot of pressure after the Weird and Wonderful? Because obviously, you know, everyone loved that album across the board. You know, I mean, I remember kind of seeing the wrap up of the cycle at Reading when you guys played the main stage, and it felt like such a kind of amazing moment. Like, has there been a lot of pressure in that sense, or did the extra time kind of give you that sense of being able to flesh the songs out?
I guess there is going to be pressure because, you know, with like Weird and Wonderful, we had all our lives pretty much like that. There was no thought, do you know what I mean? Like, we, you know, we only just got signed and we had all this material, so we were able to do this album. There was a couple of songs, you know, which we left last minute, but then they made it onto the album. So I think it is a lot different from as a band, you know, when you're just doing it as a hobby and then you get signed, and it really does become, like, honestly, it does become a job, because there's so many people that you have to fit whatever you do into brackets for. Do you know what I mean? So, which is cool. It's amazing, you know, that we get to do this for life. But yeah, I think, but the pressure is always good. You know, some people can't deal with pressure and they just don't like it, and they don't bother being in a lifestyle of having a bit of pressure. But you know, a little bit of pressure can do amazing things and can push you to greater and better places, really. So we've kind of learnt to, with the word pressure, or understand pressure it can be a good thing. So. And we seem to work good under pressure as a band. So, yeah, there was obviously, like, I can remember, like, walking around the festival season, and everyone's like, "Oh, so after festival season, what are you doing?" You know, obviously you've got the second album, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, second album!" You know, normally that's where bands fail and they'll go down to the, I won't swear, but you know what I mean, down the shitter type thing. But for us, hearing other band members say that, and people within the industry, it was more like, you know, nah, we're fine. We got this. Like, this is what we love to do, and we wouldn't have signed up for this if, you know, we were just gonna, like, be lazy about it. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. And you know what? Knowing What You Know Now is a great album. It's one that I keep going back to and listening to. So, you know, it must be on something or doing something right. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, in that sense, like, it sounds like you had a lot of confidence going into the album then. I mean, going into the studio and starting to get the tracks sort of fleshed out, as I say, was it a very positive vibe then?
Oh, yeah. Like, we kind of don't have, like, a set way of, like, how we do everything. So there's always, like, that feeling of, like, let's just go into it with our eyes closed, you know what I mean, just see what happens, because we don't have like a specific, like, method or way into, like, how we record all the time.
Did it feel, with a little bit of time off the road while you were writing that sort of thing, when you got into the studio, did it feel like all that energy kind of came flying out and into the record as well? Because it is like, it's such a vibrant, energetic album. Yeah,
completely. Not gonna lie, you know, we went all in. We were, like, happy. I'm so happy to be back into doing this. And it was, like, before Christmas time, so we all kind of like it when it's getting cold, and, you know, we're in this, like, old studio where the fire's constantly on, and, you know, we're having, like, proper grub every evening, you know, being looked after, which was amazing. Coming back to where we'd all been scattered over England, and, you know, the lifestyle that I wouldn't say choose to live, but the lifestyle that we have to sit in and live in, which is fine. You know, we received positive and everything. So it was amazing. We were just all happy to be under the same roof together, and just being able to go out and play football and sit down all together and have tea. Do you know what I mean? For me, that's so important, because in the last 2 years, I've been very separated from the boys. Obviously because of my operations and having to live, because we used to live right next door to each other. So you can imagine, you know, people always say, you know, with the band, like, how do you guys work? Your brothers and sisters for a starter. Like, how does that even work? But to be honest, it's with each other, it's all we had. So having them 2 years kind of apart and then being in the studio together, you know, there was just so much happiness. And to top it all off, we're doing something that we absolutely love and something that connected us all together in the first place, which was music. So, yeah, it was a beautiful experience, and it really makes you look forward to the next experience of recording again. So, you know, like we say, we're already wanting to write. We're already writing because we're like, we need to get back in the studio, because we do love that part.
Amazing.
Of it all,
so talking about, you know, new music, obviously we'll carry on about the album in a sec, but, like, talking about new music already being written, so is there just that fire's just completely raging since you finished this album then, and you just want to get stuff down as quickly as possible?
Well, specifically, Jack, he's been very, like, he kind of had this moment, I think, after we recorded, we still had a little bit of time away from each other, and Jack was just constantly writing stuff, like, even on the GarageBand app. It's great just for getting all your ideas down, and it's a good starting point. So, and I came back to him and he had, like, 7 ideas, and there were ideas that I listened to, and I was just like, oh my gosh, my heart was like pumping fast, and I was like, yes, this is amazing. So, and then it's just, that little bit of inspiration from one of you guys. It's like, that's all you need to get going. So, yeah, Josh is always full of ideas. He's always on his mark. So we were just all in a good place of like, we already have kind of a bit of a sound, a direction for maybe the new record. You don't know. I could be talking about this, and then you know what? In about a couple of months' time, we're like, oh no, all them songs are shit. We need to, we wrote 50 more. Do you know what I mean? So you never know how it's going to go down. Because I remember in 2015, we were like, yeah, we have the album down, and then we realised we really didn't. So we had to go in and write. Like, I think we had like 2 or 3 albums worth. For Knowing What You Know Now, and obviously it ends up being like 13, 12 songs. So.
Blimey. So when you did kind of whittle the songs down into what we now know as the album, in terms of Play as the first single and the first song on the album, it feels like, it still feels like the Marmozets we know and love, but there's so many new things going on in that song. Like, how did that song come together? Like, was it always kind of standing out as the first single?
Well, it's kind of... Well, obviously, Play is what it is, do you know what I mean? And that was like pretty much one of the first things that kind of got us kicked into that rhythm of, the way that we're approaching and writing. But I know this isn't one of the greatest mottos or sayings from myself, but it's like, why would you want to eat beef toasty every single day? Do you know what I mean? You want to spice it up. You want to have something different to awaken them taste buds, and that's kind of how we are with music. We don't want to just keep doing the same thing every day. We're just going to get bored and sick and tired of it. So it's like, that's the beauty about art. You can go in so many different directions, but it is about going in the direction that you're known for. And I guess, that's just keeping it real. So yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it's a lot more upbeat, and we've experimented a lot more with, I wouldn't say electronics, but yeah, because we've got Joshy Boy, who's an amazing, not just one of the best drummers. He's like a whiz kid on his laptop. He's like a bit of a producer. So it's and we all have different tastes in music, and we've all come from different backgrounds within music. So it's like, we just put our little bits together, I guess, and then that's how it happens. But yeah, we're always evolving, and we want to always evolve. So.
Definitely, yeah, because that's the thing. Like you say, you've got all these different tastes, and it was the same on The Weird and Wonderful, but like even more so on this album. Like, it's just, there's so much going on, massively eclectic. Did you kind of, I guess with this album, and like we've talked about it being the second album, that sort of thing, did you want to seize that opportunity and see how far you could push the Marmozet sound and kind of all these new things that you could try with it?
I think we kind of just naturally do push things. We're never like, oh, we can't do this. Maybe we should try and do that. Or, somebody's totally like, oh no, I hate that idea, but everyone else loves it. I don't know how we end up making it work for each other. It just does. I guess it's like the love that we have for each other just drives us forward. And I guess the confidence that we do have in ourselves for our abilities. And it's never easy. And you always get them days where you're writing a song and everyone else says it's good, but you're still not feeling it and you're still not connecting. You think it's shit, and you're just like in a weird place. It's like, no one has a perfect life. So yeah, we're just like, I wouldn't say experimenting. It's not like we're all in there like making potions and shit. You know what I mean? It's we're just jamming what we like, and obviously pick up influences on the way, and they end up, going into your music without you even realising. Because when you're that in love with something, you end up like almost like pinching it and putting it on your coat. Do you know what I mean? Like a badge, and going, yeah, I can dabble with this. This is part of me. I like to move my hips, so that music makes me want to move my hips. So that's why I'm putting it in there. Yeah.
Something to go on that as well, like a song like Meant to Be, and songs like super, super fun, super dance quality to them. Like, there's a real fun vibe to the album as well as everything else going on. Was that quite important for you to have in there as well, in that you wanted people to get up and dance?
Oh, yeah, because I've always kind of had, it's taken me a little while to get from the beginning of Marmozets, because like the first stuff that I was a teenager that just had like a lot of, I wouldn't say I was full of anger, but I had that edge to me of, I was like, don't give a fuck, middle finger up in the air type thing. Do you know what I mean? And and that was me, and I was still a teenager, and I hadn't quite about becoming a woman properly, and it's like it's completely different how when your body changes, your music changes, your taste changes. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, like I've always danced. Dancing is one of my favorite things. Wherever I go, you know, I could be in the shop buying my weekly food, and I'll be dancing down the aisle if the song comes on that I like. Do you know what I mean? It's just, there's a sense of freedom in dancing, and I know a lot of dancers will be like, amen, sister, do you know what I mean? There's freedom in it. So I've always liked to dance, and I'm so excited that we're able to incorporate stuff like boogie on stage. You know, that makes me so happy, and I know it does make a lot of other people happy, you know. But people go clubbing, so they can just like, you know, get loose and have a dance. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Because, well, on the kind of flip side of that as well, you know, you've got songs like Insomnia and songs like Me and You, which are, you know, real kind of curveballs, you know. They kind of expand on things you were doing with like Back to You and Captivate You on the last album, things like that. Super, super cool stuff. Take me inside those songs in particular because they really stand out.
Well, you know, it wasn't all happy clappy dancing as life, as you know, we can get hit to rock bottom sometimes, and you know, in the last couple of years we had a couple of sad things that happened. So you know what, I'm going to sing about them because you know, other people are going to go through them experiences, and I think it was definitely. I think it's great finding a way to be able to move on. You know, you're never going to be able to move on, for instance, for death. You're always going to grieve over it, but you can make it easier for yourself. And one of the ways of me dealing with it was I hadn't grieved. I was still going on tour, and I was still pushing myself, you know, almost like just like kind of distract myself, but it doesn't work. You know, you can try and distract yourself as much unless you get to the root of it all. And the thing that I needed to do and I was searching for was I needed just to get this into song. So I sat there and I blabbered the whole way through trying to sing. Poor Josh is like trying to record, and every time I tried to record, I just was blabbing. And I just had to have my moment, you know, and cry and get it all out. And now I've got a song about my nana. So, and I used to always kind of one of them songwriters like, oh, I don't like singing about people. I'm never going to, you know, say somebody's name or anything like that. But oh my gosh, my nana's called Faith, and she had all the faith in the world, and I needed to sing about her. So. And I don't know, hopefully it's one of them songs that I put out there and people can maybe look at death a little bit easier, I guess. You know, death is a horrible word, just like the name itself. You just see darkness, you know what I mean? But, you know, if you can believe that maybe one day you get to see them and they go to paradise or heaven or wherever, you know, that's cool. I think it's a cool thing to hold, so... that's what I believed in. So, yeah, and then you got Insomnia, like, that was just, like, literally, it's everything, you know, when you're just a bit fed up and you're trying to get through each day, and each time you go to bed, you know, your head's ticking, you can't sleep, you've got this on your mind, that on your mind, and that's exactly what that song's all about, you know. I had a good couple of months where I just wasn't sleeping properly, and because I just had all this weird energy on my life, which didn't need to be there, and there was ways of easily getting rid of it. But once again, I managed to get a song out of it. So it's weird how you end up having to put yourself and be in these situations, you know what I mean, for like material to come through. So, and you know, I'm happy I went through the experiences for that material to come through.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. As I say, love knowing what you know now. Amazing to hear her talk so candidly about the time away and the fact they're already writing for a third album. Man, like, what a band. Jack?
What I've always liked about Marmozets, and like I've known them since like 2012 when they were like playing dirty riffs, and I saw them support 4 Years Strong once, which was pretty wild. Pop punk kids didn't know what to make of it. They've always just been what they want to be and done things how they want to. Like, there's no agenda, nothing. Like, especially on Weird and Wonderful Marmozets, which was weird and wonderful. There's this carefreeness, like even in the way that she talks and presents herself. Becca's just like knows who she wants to be, knows what she wants a band to be, and it works along with her brothers as well. And also, it's the idea that she's not comfortable with keeping things the same, always wanting to change things up and be a different person, be a different band, and make different music, and not like become like everyone else. Which I think is a really unique place to be, because it's so easy to fall into the trap of, especially like now, like it's not like they're doing it for themselves. They're on like Roadrunner, like big boy label, and when you fall into those traps, you can be like, well, we'll just do it by the book and do whatever. But like, just in the songs which we've got out now, like Inhabits and Play, like it's a band who is still thirsty even after all this time, and a band who is still like want to make a difference and like make people enjoy music again, rather than them just be another band on an iPod.
Yeah, big time. I mean, they're super unique, and as you say, I mean, they know who they want to be, and Becca's so cool, you know, and like you say, there's no, you can tell it just all comes from the heart, what she's saying, you know, and that's so refreshing, I think. Tamsin?
Just think like one of the things that she kind of said in the interview that stuck out for me is just like, everyone needs to just enjoy dancing a bit, which with Marmozets, you wouldn't really put that with them, because they are a bit heavier, they can be quite angry at times, but I love the idea of her like walking down the shop, like just having a little boogie to whatever she's listening to, and I think that's a really important point that all of us probably just need to take into our lives, is just don't be afraid to dance, because it makes you really happy. And I can confirm that dancing makes you really happy. Watching Jack dance makes me really happy.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
So, and you know, she's, as she said, she touched on some really horrid subjects, things like death and some emotional subjects. But then she's like, but I also really want to make people happy. So we'll just wait and see what the album turns out like.
I think it's going to, like, I mean, the reaction that Weird and Wonderful had, like, this is going to send them even further. Like, even further.
Oh yeah, the slower song we've chatted about this in the episode, with the slower songs on it.
Yeah, like there's the song,
so
like the songs which do get you like feet tapping are like good, but like the more considered tracks are just like,
yeah,
like legit. But I'm gonna say like songs where you do like shake about a little.
I just want to watch you just shaking along to the new Marmozets record.
It can be arranged.
Okay.
Time
and place, Jack, and I'm there.
I'll put on a club night.
Amazing stuff. So yeah, knowing what you know now, absolute banger. Honestly, Me and You is the tune. It's so good. Like, such new ground for that band. Amazing stuff. Be excited for that coming out in January. So much happening. Big shout out to Becca. Such a great chat. And yeah, Marmozets, one of the UK's very best bands. So next week, as I say, something very, very special is happening. No spoilers, but be there on our Twitter page at 5 p.m. UK time next Friday, December 1st, for the big reveal. No spoilers, but really, honestly, be excited. It's so good.
Prepare to be shook.
Yes, exactly. Spotify playlist. Follow us on Spotify. An updated rock sound chart with Fall Out Boy at number 1, Mice and Men at number 2. Follow us on there. Check it all out. Now, Scuzz TV show is, of course, on daily on Scuzz, so check that out. So it's been a blockbuster. It's been a bit of a ride. You guys had a good time?
Had a lovely time.
Always.
Yeah, it's been good. As I say, we will see you guys in this normal format on the 15th of December, so a couple of weeks' time. But for now, get excited about what's coming. And yeah, we will see you then.
See ya. Love you.